I remember when these phones came out in the mid 2000s, it was like from 2004 all the way up into 2010, 2011 when they were around, and then they started phasing them out for these Androids and iPhones. Um, around 2010, 2011, especially 2012, 2013, they were pretty much non-existent. These smartphones here, but a lot of them will still work though. I mean, he's obviously able to use it, and you could tell that's a modern smartwatch there on his wrist, so he's able to use this phone. But of course, it has no signal. See, let's see here. Oh, it does have a signal. Well, that's weird. Maybe unless he has a cell site simulator, or maybe it's just something. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the phones that I've had over the years in the 2000s. The, I think the 2000s were the best years for me, to be honest. Early 2000s all the way up until at least 2011 were probably the best years.
There was a whole decade of devices that predated those phones. A parade.
Yeah, I wish I had that box right there. I actually had like one of these Dells, but that's not a phone. But I had one of these. It was a Dell Axiom, but you could probably find them on Facebook and like eBay and all that. These pocket PCs,
Of pocket-sized Windows machines.
another Dell Axiom, but yeah, I had that one from Quest Wireless. I these these went for I think like $600 at the time, each, and what I would do is I would make up fake social security numbers and birth dates, and they would run an internal credit review, and it would come up as no deposit required. So between 2006 and 2007, I had went through 4 or 5 of those. The last time I ever had one of these was a long time ago, and unfortunately, it got stolen from me in, I think, Niagara Falls, New York, or something like that. It really pissed me off because I was using it with Skype at the time. Skype was free to make calls between 2006 and 7, completely free, incoming and outgoing. You'd just load the cab file, and then you'd be on a Wi-Fi network and use Skype. And that's how I made my phone calls and stuff. And then I would go on the Yahoo Messenger via another app, and then Yahoo Chat and whatever through the web browser, and listen to music on here. I had 2 gigabyte mini. No, it was a 2 gigabyte mini SD card. They didn't last very long. The actual size of the card. They were either SD or they were micro, but they weren't mini. And I actually have a 2 gigabyte mini that is the same exact brand, size, everything that went into a pocket PC, and I got one of those right now. And I got a 1 gigabyte too. But I don't use them, but I do have them. And I remember going to the Verizon store to play with that phone when I was homeless in New York City. These were on a display attached to a cable that retracted, or a rope or a wire or something, so you couldn't just grab it and run, right? But I would often go into a Verizon store just to get on the internet real quick, check email, check messages, things like that. Yeah, I really miss those days, I really do.
Every color and shape. And this one was by far the
Yep.
weirdest.
The
The year is 2005, and this is the Windows
2005?
Mobile-powered Motorola.
Yeah, I think it was. I think someone had one of these up on the Greyhound when I was going from California all the way from California all the way back to New York City. I think I think someone had one of these.
Specifically, the smartphone edition.
2004 Microsoft. Wow. 2003 Windows Mobile 2003 second edition.
So
Wow.
back in the mid-aughts, the accepted approach for putting processing power in the pockets of the prosumer was for companies like Microsoft to build...
Those were around the late 90s, in the 2000s. Those iPacs.
And Windows Mobile came in 2 flavors. The Pocket PC edition, first released at the turn of the century, usually ran on hardware similar to a Palm Pilot. A big resistive touchscreen and a
Oh, T-Mobile had that? Wow. If I had known that, I would have gotten it through T-Mobile back in the day. They never advertised. They never told us about that at the T-Mobile store or at the kiosk in 2004. Me and the girl that I was dating then. Otherwise, I would definitely have gotten it.
similarly big
Internal
person
antenna.
manipulated by a finicky stylus.
It didn't need a external like a
Thanks to
CDMA
Charles
did.
Dolan for donating the bulk of these. I actually completely forgot that I have this HTC Universal in the archives, and I'm so taken with it that I might shortlist it for the next episode of this series if I can find one with a QWERTY instead of a Quartz keyboard. Let me know in the comments if that's something you want to see.
That's cool.
Anyway, in the
I wish I
early
would have known about that back
PC
then.
was way too much fun for most folks. So in 2003, Microsoft added Windows Mobile Smartphone Edition to the mix. It was built on the same core that had powered handheld PCs as far back as the mid-90s. But
I remember
the
that.
feature set and interface were simplified to run on the smaller screens most Americans
Yep.
were buying at the time. And that brings us to this monster Motorola. I previewed this phone in prior videos.
I've always wanted that phone too back in the
So
day.
this
Always
series
wanted it.
docu-
Always wanted that phone, and it. Damn, now I.
Motorola had a near monopoly on manufacturing handsets for Nextel, and it would never award a
Let's see if the phone that I had is in this pile here that this guy has, because I had a Motorola Nextel. It was a black one. It was a basic black one. Don't think it could have been the 700 series. I don't know. It could have been. He's got the i930 right there. He's got, wow. I had a candy bar style too. You know, the one where you didn't flip open. It was I had like 3 different Nextels. I think in like 2007.
model number higher than i930. That lofty designation was accompanied
Oh, that's cool. You can use Wayback Machine to actually check out the website. I remember when it would look like this too, but a lot of it's going to be dead. I remember when you could send text messages right from the website itself. You could send text, you just couldn't receive it from the person though, unless you had unless you had an actual account. Then you could actually buy like music and stuff off of Sprint.com too, and movies and shows and all that. There's a lot of reasons why that these years really make me want to go back, but there's only a couple main reasons. And it's just the way it is.
by a high price, $400.
This one was pretty tough. A lot of people had this one. A lot of the construction crews had this, or people in the construction industry, they actually had this one because it was pretty tough, you know. You want to search, you see mail and rebate. Wow.
$199.
It's crazy. Yeah, the phones weren't that expensive back in the day either, if you really think about it. I mean, well, they were.
$128 in 2026. Back in 2005, most people were buying even high-end phones for below 300 MSRP,
Yeah.
or about half that on contract. So this was a very expensive device.
When I have to take everything with me, this has what it takes. Hell yeah, it does.
Well, we'll see. What you got for that cash splash was a one-of-a-kind communicator, accompanied by a cavalcade of accessories bundled within its boldly branded box. Alongside a removable 880 mAh battery was a charger that could be used with any of Nextel's Falcon series phones,
Yep.
a data cable and desktop cradle, the requisite PC software, and the boondoggle keychain of mobile phones in 2005, a must-have for the season's fashion.
I got a
and
bunch of
official
clips like that
Motorola
for
belt clip.
the much older phones, you know.
Back to the
But
phone. God,
I forgot what phones that they would go to.
There's never been anything quite like the i930.
I loved classic 23rd century design, black finish, silver highlights. Sorry.
Star Trek reference.
Sure, the design is reminiscent of the earlier
Deep
IH-6,
Space Nine reference.
right down to that spring-loaded push-to-flip button. But it's been beefed up by a bunch to squeeze in its smartphone capabilities. There's a full-size SD card slot, along
Oh,
with
yeah,
power
that's right.
for data transfer, and very rare for the time.
Yeah, Windows Media, yep. They should have said video recorder, but back then it was camcorder, you know?
The inclusion of 2 complete
Music's extended.
radio sets, one for Nextel's domestic IDEN network, and a tri-band GSM stack for the international roaming the target globe-trotting customer was likely to be doing. Oh, and dual batteries, which in this case is not a plus. Time to break out the i930 service manual and my iFixit toolset for a routine vintage phone outpatient procedure.
Dual batteries for what? Well, what was dual battery? I never heard of dual battery up in that phone.
I used to think VPNs were only for people doing
Huh.
why the smartphone surgery. Well, at the time, a lot of mobile computing platforms stored some user data in volatile memory, meaning it always needed power of some kind, even if you drained the main battery.
BlackBerry looking
On the
HTC.
i930, that power came from a tiny coin cell. I mean, like about as big as the biggest pimple you've ever had. And in this case, that cell is drained beyond recovery.
Yeah, I was
Of course,
saying.
it's also long out of production. This is giving me nightmare flashbacks to my AOL mobile communicator video. Fortunately, that's nothing that $10 on DigiKey can't fix. But unfortunately,
Really?
the replacement battery came with some added accoutrements that need to be inelegantly
You use
excised.
flush cutters for doing that. Little flush cutters. It makes it easier.
Stupid little connectors are gone. I pop the cell back into its slot, reassemble the phone as carefully as I can, and hello, Moto. That is promising. And there seems to be no permanent damage, other than me busting off the embrittled protective cover on the 2.5mm earphone jack. Acceptable losses, I think. Windows Mobile for smartphone. And this OS had its problems, but I really enjoyed my time with it back in the mid-noughties. While the Pocket PC edition was more powerful, I always found it over-engineered for my needs. Its complicated interface too successful at replicating a Windows desktop experience I just didn't want in my palm. The smartphone edition was more sensibly confined, relying on buttons instead of touchscreens, which made it perfect for the T9 keypad, D-pad, and soft key combo of the 930.
Does anyone remember when you could text without having to really look at the screen? Like you could put it in your pocket. If you looked at a message and you're walking on the street, you look at the message real quick, put it back in your pocket, flip open, or candy bar style, just plain open, and then you would just send off a text message, and you know what keys to press and how many times, what key to press to send and all that. Yeah, I remember doing that quite a bit. My right thumb here got a good workout from doing that shit back in the day. Wow, it's crazy.
It ran well on the phone's 200 MHz Texas Instruments OMAP processor, and its home screen design was a great early example of the glanceable simplicity you want from a smartphone. Your recent apps are up top, network status, date and time below
Suppose the
that,
battery still
and your
works in
last
it.
call, your next calendar appointment, and your messages.
The lithium-ion
And
battery.
is a start button at the lower left, something familiar to anyone who'd used a PC since 1995. But you didn't buy an i930 to stick to the rudimentary reality of life on a flip phone. So, let's bust out my college-era HP laptop, cross our fingers that it...
I think a friend of mine had a laptop similar, and I got it running for him. I do have a Dell Latitude it's a D610. I have that kicking around too. I actually broke it out a couple weeks ago, and I was doing some updates on it using a legacy update. So I do have that still going. I got a Dell Vostro too. that was running Windows, I think Vista or 7 on it at the time. And I did take it apart. I remember putting it back together, but I still don't feel comfortable where it's not 100% back together. So it really sucks. But it is what it is, right?
We'll boot. Yep. And spin up its optical drive to see what this CD has in store.
He could have ran that on Windows 10 in compatibility mode. Palm Central. Anyone remember those phones from 2009, 2010, like era? I had the Sprint one.
So I guess the last time I used this machine was for my Palm Central video. You should go back and rewatch that. Was that 5 years ago? Jeez. Right.
5 years ago.
Oh. Getting started with Windows Mobile. That's what we're doing here. Listen to these tunes.
Yeah, they were.
Loving it. God, I miss the days of symphonic setup music. And this is Microsoft ActiveSync, because while you could synchronize data over the mobile network using this big antenna, well, I'll reference Julian Sawandi, writing for Mobile Tech Review at the time. Apparent.
Took 40 minutes to download 956 emails. Let's see here. Did not have good battery life because it's 880 milliamp hour. Had the phone fully charged. Downloaded 956. The phone's completely drained. If you have a heavy email user, I tested the phone while retrieving messages 15 minutes short. Trio 650 the guy had. The i930 supports 900 and 1800 megahertz GSM bands. The US uses 850 and 1900 megahertz bands instead. Oh.
It took 40 minutes to download 956 emails, totaling about 15 megabytes. The
Wow.
better move was to come home, dock.
Yeah, the data rate for the IDEN network wasn't in megabits per second. It was in kilobits per second maximum. I think the IDEN network was, I think, 128 kilobits a second or 512 kilobits a second, like maximum theoretical speeds, I think. I'm not sure exactly. I need to look it up real quick. Let's see here. Yeah, it was like 14.4 to 19.2 widen. It would get up to 90, but a lot. But you had to update the phone. I think you had to update the phone's firmware to actually get that, and in most places it never got that. And 3G was roughly 1 to 3 megabits. I remember seeing about 1.5 to 2 megabits per second on the Verizon network around 2004 into 2005. So yeah.
PC would synchronize those emails, along with your calendar, contacts, and
Yeah,
task
it was
list,
called
in the good
Microsoft
old-fashioned
ActiveSync.
wired way.
Yep.
Set synchronization would also let you access the phone's file system, which you could also do on the device itself. And this is a huge part of what made Windows Mobile so amazing to
Yeah.
me. In the days before my Windows PC was connected to the internet, I would spend time just sort of digging around inside it, figuring out what made it work. And Windows Mobile was just as open. Every asset of the OS was exposed, like the wallpapers, and graphic assets for system events, like the coin cell failure GIF that we saw before,
Yeah.
and Windows system sounds too. If you haven't noticed, I'm actually working with two separate i930 units for this video, one of which is a used version I bought for the Nextel episode. And inside that one, we find the perennial gold mine of PCs of a certain age, the temporary internet files folder, a stockpile of locally
Cool.
downloaded assets that gives us a glimpse into the mobile websites of the time. Whoever owned this one was fond of a site called 007 Radio, an angry lady, a logo, a tiny man, a bunch of log files, a tiny stormtrooper, maybe related to the Windows Media Player website offering trailers for a new Star Wars series called Clone Wars,
Oh yeah.
a fourth Indiana Jones film.
Yeah.
I'm sure will do well. Oh, and so...
Actually, that one is
so
pretty
many
good.
sideloaded
The fourth
ringtones.
one, I think it's Crystal Skull, right? That one's pretty
Yes,
good.
you
I don't know why
can
people
browse
didn't
the
think
web
of
on
that.
mobile phones in the time before the iPhone. And
Java,
check
yeah.
our email and download media, too. It took me a second to find an SD card in my collection small enough for the i930 to recognize. It seems to top out at 2 gigs.
Yep,
But that was
it'll be
funny
2
to
gigs.
press the phone into service as an iPod of sorts. At the time, the MP3 player I owned offered a meager 256 megabytes of storage.
Yep.
Our phones could even run third-party applications as long...
I had a little. I had a USB MP3 player at the. I forgot what year it was. Maybe 2007. I think.
long as you had a phone
Maybe
that wasn't
5. I
this
can't remember exactly.
See, for all its advanced attributes, the i930 would never truly live up to the potential promised by its elaborate OS because it was application locked. Which means that only apps certified by Nextel or Microsoft's Mobile to Market program would run on it. Any app not so blessed would fail to launch.
Oh.
Just imagine if your smartphone came with no app store and no ability to load one. You'd be pretty pissed. And
Yeah.
i930 buyers absolutely were. Being confined to Pocket Excel and Solitaire infuriated the power users who felt their expensive new phone was being arbitrarily hobbled. There was a calling.
Wow. A lot of these forums go back to 2004. Wow, that's crazy. Trying to think here if there's a way to look at what I forgot what site it was again.
Arbitrarily hobbled.
I don't know. Huh.
There was a call-in campaign, an online petition, and eventually, of course, a homebrew software solution to hack the phone to remove those
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. WebGel 8 i930 mod Steams.
restrictions.
Huh.
I spent a lot of time in old forums and inside the Wayback Machine.
I used to do a lot of those forums too back in the day when I was doing the Motorola, the Verizon Razr, switching it from Verizon to Sprint, doing the, learning how to take the monster file and flashing the phone and everything. And I remember flashing one phone, and I completely bricked it. I was angry as fuck, angry because I was using that phone too. Never should have done that. That was 2007.
Find a working build of that unlocking software and even got a hold of the original developer to try activating it. Sadly, he told me the software used to generate keys for that program is long gone. But even if I could get it working, I doubt it would help. The used i930 I have seems to have been decertified, and even it won't run anything I try to load onto its 27 megabytes of user-accessible storage. Java apps, Windows mobile programs, it simply refuses to launch anything that wasn't already on board.
Huh.
I've lost count of the number of app repositories and archives I've plumbed, worn the contacts half off my SD cards with the constant swaps, even downloaded an ancient Motorola software suite for pushing Java apps to Nextel phones. But no Doom, no SimCity, no joy in Mudville.
Wow, that's
When
fucked
phones
up.
were frustrating. Oh, that's my problem. I didn't get Vinny Cuz.
Okay, that was from 2006, January 5th, 2006. Let's see where I was then. Trying to remember. I know I was out in Colorado. But was I in jail? No. Oh wait a minute, no. Yeah, I may have been out in Colorado. I may have left Buffalo. No, I didn't. I was still in Buffalo, New York, I think. And then I headed to Colorado. I headed to La Junta, Colorado. Yeah, was it? Late 2004, I was in La Junta. Okay, and then 2000, then early, yeah, I know it was early 2006 and later 2006. I was back in Wahunta, even though I was out in New York and for a bit, and then I went back to yeah. I left Colorado. Let me see here. Yeah, I left Colorado, I think like June of '06. Stayed in the Chicagoland area for a couple months. Went back to New York. Then from New York back to Colorado. And then back to New York again in '07. Wow. That's crazy.
Was his WebGel patcher. That's the ticket. Best I can do for you is to showcase the IR port that lets you beam an image to any IR-equipped phone or computer. And then, well, maybe I'll steal a page from LGR's book and SD sideload a song that's suitable for this world-class speakerphone.
Huh. Is that really the speaker?
You know, even that immense unlocking effort would prove to have a payoff that was pretty short-lived. While the i930 was the most advanced phone on Nextel, that brand was already at the beginning stages of an inevitable obsolescence. And the company that bought it, Sprint, offered far more compelling smartphones on a far faster network.
Yeah, I had the Sprint version around 2009, I think it was, or 2000. Yeah, like 2008 or 2009. Oh my god, I fucking wish I can go back to those days right now.
The 930 also debuted over a year past its intended launch.
A year after its intended launch? Wow. That sucks. So that means that the wide end update for it worked or didn't work. I read it somewhere about that.
Launch window.
You know, they give it that 90 kilobits a second.
Talk and 1.3 megapixel camera offered by the i870 that came out around the same time. The 930 didn't have Wi-Fi either, which I wanted to address with an SD adapter, pretty common in the PDA world at the time. But that was impossible on the 930 too, since it lacked the SDIO plumbing necessary to support that.
Oh yeah.
So like I say, an odd duck from an odd time in an industry poised on the precipice of disruption. There never was a sequel to the i930, just an even more corporate cameraless version called the i920. Americans would move on to more capable devices powered by the newer Windows Mobile 5, alongside handhelds from Palm and, of course, BlackBerry, surging so spectacularly.
I didn't like those Blackberries, nope.
It spawned a bevy of copycats before iOS and Android changed everything forever.
It did.
I won't miss the terrible data speeds, Windows wonkiness, or atrocious battery life of the i930, but I'll always appreciate the days when the status lights
6105. Let's see, 6105. Where was I in 6105? Buffalo, New York. I was in Buffalo. I was dating this girl named Tahara Battle. You know. She was 19, I was 21. Yeah. Oh my god, I fucking miss those days.
Speakerphones blared with coast-to-coast walkie-talkie calls, and phones were fun.
Yeah, I fucking wish I could go back to those days right now so bad.